Hi, it's Friday, the 15th of May 2020, and it's Blue Galactic Hand Day. And here we are. So, Blue Hand being the 7th Mayan sign, and we're on the 8th day of Yellow Sun Wave Spell. And so, on the 8th day of any wave spell, it connects us back to the previous wave spell, which was, in this case, Blue Hand. And so we're integrating what we were actually shaping our destiny with at that time. And if you check my blog, flowwithjo.com, you will find the dates on there for the spirals. And so you can cross over into using your experience and the Gregorian calendar to understand where you are and what you're working with right now, because this is what I offer you. This is what this is all about. This is a 260-day amazing synchronizing tool for us to use at this hugely transformative time and key to understanding the evolutionary process that's going on right now on planet Earth, how to shape our destiny. Primarily, it is really simple. It's about healing our shadow story so that we don't keep doing it. And that's it in a nutshell. So in terms of where we are on the 20-day cycle, we are now on the third column, the co-creation column. And this is so important. I've been doing so much research on this the past few days. It's been absolutely mind-blowing. So I'm going to go into that now in more detail. But basically, once we get to the third wave spell, we're in the co-creation zone. And we've got lots of Gemini going on. We've got North Node in Gemini, which is about relationship. We've got Venus has just gone retrograde in Gemini, and that is really key as well right now, because we are going over our ground around what we value and what we love. And this will all be carrying on until June in the case of Venus retrograde. We've got Jupiter went retrograde yesterday, and so that carries on until September the 12th, and then we've got Saturn retrograde started on May the 11th, and that will be going on until September the 29th. So these planets going back over old ground are really key to working with our own shadow story, because we've also got Pluto retrograde, and again that's going to carry on until October. So we're going over old ground to know ourselves, to heal ourselves, and to become clear of our old story. This is what this is all about. This is what this time is all about. And so in terms of the astrology today, we have the Sun in Taurus, and we've got the Moon waning in Pisces at the moment. And when I was looking at these energies this morning, I was basically downloading a Mayan decoder, and I've been looking at a couple of them over the past few days. Just amazing. I don't know how people even begin to put these things together. They are truly amazing things that you can use. So again, I'm going to be putting things on my app, on my website, about an app in particular, and a decoder as well. If anyone knows of software, because I've been asking various people over quite a long time around, is there anybody out there who has an embed code so I can put my own decoder on my website? Please do get in touch with me, and that is something that I'd really, really like to do now, and I haven't got a clue how to go about it. And as much as I've tried searching for this stuff, because it's not an app, I'm guessing somebody would have to write the software for my web page. But if you know of anybody, or you know of an application, most of them aren't for Macs, and I really need one with a Mac. And I need one that shows the 30 moon calendar and the wave spell and the long counts, ideally, so all of them, and in a lovely simple format. And I absolutely love starroute.com, and that's the one that I use. So really want to have one on my own website now, so please do get in touch if you know about that. Anyway, back to today. So Moon in Pisces, when I looked at that this morning, as I said early on, it was at 4 degrees of Pisces. Now that goes back to the 23rd of February. We had that exact degree when I was looking at it this morning. Again, the synchronicities, using your intuition, connecting to the magic. So February the 23rd was the white wind wave spell, and it was white overtone world bridger on that day, and the moon was at 4 degrees. So we've had several new moons come in since winter last year that have had 4 degrees, and that is the structure. So in terms of the Mayan calendar, that is day number 4 in any wave spell. It's self-existing. And in the bigger picture, it's yellow seed. Yellow self-existing seed is the Mayan computer code, galactic signature, archetype. That's what we're here to reform, the star seed, so we can allow that to come through us and let go of coping mechanisms and masks, and not doing our emotion and staying stuck in old codependent codes, basically. So I'm just going to read you that energy. Mushrooms springing up everywhere. You're being engulfed by external and internal factors and facets that suddenly are there everywhere and come right in. No boundaries, no separate container. The universal life force carrier and representative, incapable of pulling away from the collective call of life, is intoxicated with it all. Massively taken over by emergent currents and whatever feels vitally important, impressionable and suggestible with an unbelievable depth and intensity, absorbing the shock of all that is happening here, raw and impelled to rally people around, to bring everybody alive, to make it happen. You ooze conviction and resonance with the basic core spirit in each and all, 300% all the way. So let's have a look at where we're at right now. So the time is 15:54. So we're now at 7 degrees of Pisces. Okay, so just working with what's been going on this afternoon. So we've got Pisces 5, thousands of gold nuggets glistening at the bottom of a clear stream. There's the clue. Pisces 6, an Inca chief wearing many emeralds. So that's a reference, I think, to Palenque. Pisces 7, a candle burning. There is a ring of salt around it on the floor. Spirit is well preserved from becoming untrue. It is held within its own matrix and granted a pure and wonderfully veiled atmosphere and feeling, tone and sphere to stay within. From this place, spirit can empower itself to be whole, to commune, to remember and to conceive. You are given what you need and especially granted time and grace to be ushered through the world in a guided tour that leads only to the temples and the marvels that are here. However, all of this happens inside, deep inside. The outside situation may belie the inward experience, but here, what seems in the moment is as nothing, and what is really there between the lines and through the cracks is everything. This is a domain set apart for special purposes, projects and endeavours, and is the perfect retreat for one who wishes to remain in touch with the living spirit, who wishes never to forget what it is that stands under the phenomenal world and keeps the eternal flame burning without a flicker. So, books that I've been reading at the moment, which again I normally have a few on the go, are this one, and this is really key as to what I'm going to say next. Sorry, there's a bit of glare on there, and in particular here. So this is page 151. This one's also key, the spark in the machine, because this is all about chi in the body, and that creates the electric body, that creates the light body. That's what I offer you. And so again, cross-pollination. And this one, which again, anything by Barbara Hand-Clough is stellar, in my opinion. So love her stuff. And again, I've read this many times, and I've got lots of books that I keep and refer back to. So yeah, it had a piece of paper in it. So I just picked up where that piece of paper was, because there was a marker there. And again, this was so key around information that I needed to hear right now, which was Alcyone and the Zolkin, Keeper of Time. So again, it's seeing how all of these link in and how they give us the information that we need at this time. And the more that we get clear, the more that we access this, because this is what I offer you. We connect to Source, which is the galactic center. And so there's no need to reinvent the wheel. We have been living out of alignment with nature and the divine will, and trying to make everything bend to our will, the human mind will. That's what I'm going to say, the human mind will, around, well, we'll just work nights. We'll just do so much more because we'll create bigger machines, and we'll defy what should be happening at any given time in our fields. We'll force crops, we'll bring them in from somewhere else. They won't be ripe, they won't be holding the amounts of nutrients that we need. We'll create all these other foods that make people really sick. We'll stay in situations that are really unhealthy for us. All of that sort of vibe, because we know better than the divine, don't we? Do we? We're on an amazing Eden planet, and I guess we just had to go so far wrong to understand that process. It was part of the process to go down so many deeply destructive tendencies, and then to learn from that and to recover from it. And that's the way I try and make sense from it. So just to go back to this little diagram here. So as you can see, there's a grid there, and there's a grid there. And these are all I Ching that go in there. But in terms of what that grid is, it's a 64 unit DNA grid, basically. And so it's the center of the pyramid. So like I say, if you turn the whole calendar into a 3D model, these are sides, and that's the top of the pyramid, and these are certain areas on the pyramid. Now, where that begins on this calendar is synchronistically yesterday. Okay, so in this very column. And so again, I was working out different factors in terms of my own personal code around this as well. And so on the White World Bridger day, the ending of worlds, what was resonating yesterday for you around what needed to die? What were you doing? What was coming up for you that was resonating? You can always tell because you've got emotional stuff going on. Some people don't actually allow that to happen, but that's what resonance actually means, is about how it makes us feel, because the feeling, the resonation, that's the clue in the emotional body, which shows us that's not in alignment with me having a happy, joyful, open heart. That's the biggest clue going. You know, if that's not happening, there's a reason for that, and it always relates back to an old story. So in terms of this grid, it begins here and then it runs down to here, which is Blue Eagle, and it's Blue Electric Eagle, and that's where the grid begins, and then it goes across here, it's mirrored across, and so again it runs to here, and that's the last one in the grid, just before Blue Eagle. So these are outside of the grid here. Sorry, these are outside of the grid, and I'm not going to go into too much information. It's in the book, and I will write about it in more depth around what the specific codes are. But I mean, this is huge. This is a huge piece of information to process and write down. And again, at the moment, as a human being, I've got a lot to process myself. I've got a lot to deal with myself. I'm not an abstract, and I'm not outside academically, you know, away from this as a viewer. I'm a full spectator in this game plan right now, and I know a lot of people are. And so it's the most important thing is to do things that keep us in our centre as much as possible and that don't take us out of it. But in terms of how that works with this, it's how they all correlate together. So this describes Dr. Daniel, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Keown, Keown. Apologies if I've said that incorrectly. It's an amazing, amazing book, and he describes things so easily, you know. I think it's easily understandable by everyone who wants to learn about new ways of being, and who wants to learn about East and West and science models that create health for us. So critical at this juncture in our world experience. So basically what he talks about is things on a cellular level and how the cells grow from the fetus. And so again, this is essential to know, I think, for a bigger picture overview of how our body develops from one cell, and basically from that cell that contains an egg and being penetrated by a sperm. And so it's the yin-yang cycle begins. And so he talks about in the first 3 weeks, which is exactly what I'm talking about with the Zolkin. So yesterday, we've been in there for 3 weeks, okay? And in terms of 3 cycles. And so what do I mean by that? So basically we've had the wave spell of Red Dragon that initiated us on the 30th of March, the awakening to what the Great Mother is bringing us. Then we've had refinement of that with Ixchel, the midwife, who's coming in to birth new ways of being, to let the magic flow through us and push out all those blockages that we're holding on to now. Remember, we're in the 11th moon now. We're in the letting go moon period, 28 days of spectral moon. Then we've had blue hand. So we've had those three processes going on. Transformation, how do you want to shape your destiny based on what's happened to you in the first two, around healing primarily. And then the third one that we're in now on day 8 of is really about what we're manifesting in terms of how much light do we hold. And again, yellow sun is the key lens to connect us to the galactic center. So this is all about healing our shadow. At the moment, you can see people acting out their shadow story with other people rather than healing their personal story. So we've got huge fear of death coming up right now, which is key to all of this energy that we're going through now. And people are so afraid of death that they're afraid to be alive, basically, in lots of behaviours that are going on that don't make any rational sense. You can see a lot of things happening, no logical sense, no rationality. And as soon as you see that happening, you know this is because it's an emotional mind projection, okay, where people are just losing their centre. And so this is why it's so key for each one of us to heal and come into our centre. And again, emotional freedom technique, check it out if you haven't already. The more you tap, the better you feel, because you're constantly working with your fear, you're constantly working with your shadow projections. And I offer you, unless you're doing that process, unless you're working with yourself all the time now, then you're just going to be really, really stuck in old story, and it's just going to get bigger and louder for you until you heal it. That's the secret. So in terms of the fetus, the first period of the fetus's development, the first stage is 4 weeks, okay? And so, again, I'm just quoting from the book here. So if you work that out in terms of the number of days and you divide that by wave spells, you have 78 days. And so that's 6 times 13. Okay, so this leads into I'm jumping ahead of myself here. So basically, once a fetus gets to 12 weeks, it's done its initial stage. All it does from there on in is it gets bigger and bigger. So everything's done in principle. Everything's there at that first stage, which is why people who are pregnant are told not to say anything until the first 12 weeks, because that's a crucial stage, really. It's things happen at that before then that mean that that may not progress, it may not be viable. And so once the fetus has got to 12 weeks, then there's a good chance that the rest of the pregnancy will be okay. There's a much higher chance anyway of that. And so he says in the book, it's got 3 billion years of evolution to get through and only 12 weeks to do it in. Everything interesting that happens to the baby happens in these 12 weeks. From then until the birth, the baby just gets bigger. Now, this is really, really key to the blue storm wave spell, which is my wave spell, and it's also my mum's wave spell. And again, these amazing, crucial things come up so that you can see at the perfect time, the amazingness of divinity, and that this process is already written, and our only choice is how to let go of any limitations that we have around our old story and our belief system, so we can move forward through that process, and so that we can really embody the avatar that we've come to be. So again, the maths that I worked out in terms of the Mayans, so changing it over to the 13 days, which is so crucial. The 13-day process is the shift process. Takes us through the Red Castle, and then an additional 2 wave spells, and that takes us to my mum's Mayan day, which is Red Resonant Serpent. And so once we get to that point in the White Castle, which we'll be going into shortly, we're in the last few days of the red. So again, with all of these, you start with red, awakening, you go into white, which is refining, and then you have 4 wave spells in each. And so once we get to the blue one, blue storm, which is going to be absolutely critical for this year, because we're going into a blue storm year on the 26th of July. So that will be the 22nd of June is my mum's Mayan sign. And so we'll be just past the summer solstice. That's a galactic portal day, Red Resonant Serpent. So that's going to be really key as to, let's have a look. Oh, we'll be in the last few days of the Venus retrograde then. So yeah, 40 days and 40 nights Venus retrograde, starting on May the 13th. So again, this is, I hope, this hasn't been too abstract and vague. I'm just really excited about it. I know you might not be able to understand where I'm coming from, but I will try and make sense of it and put it out there on my blog over the next couple of weeks around what this actually means, because this is just mind-blowing stuff being revealed to me in my 9th year of working with the Zolkin. So yeah, just mind-blowing stuff. And this is so key to really relearn, remember who we really are, unlearn old ways of being around letting the conditioned mindset rule everything that we do. So critical to now, is to question, to look for ways through the fear, be solution focused. That's what the age of Aquarius is all about. But also to feel and heal, because otherwise nothing can change. Nothing can change if we don't do that. We're just staying stuck in the old story. So if you haven't done already, check out Emotional Freedom Technique. There's loads out there. emofree.com is Gary Craig's original website. He was the one who created it from many other resources. As always, there's nothing new under the sun. It's how we work with them as way showers now, as new pathfinders. This is an amazing time of awakening and liberation and lifting the veil, so that we can really come into creating heaven on earth as an individual. That's the key starting point. Heal the shadow, change the DNA. Literally, you change your DNA when you use Emotional Freedom Technique. That's the difference that makes the difference. That's why it's a cutting edge therapy, and that's why it's so essential to understand the science behind it, so you understand why it's so important for each one of us to do this holistically, because it's the core of our coding. If you want to know more about your code and how to work with it, how to work with the cosmic codes on the planet, then please do get in touch with me. I hope you're having an amazing time of being in the light. Lots of things happening on the world stage right now. Huge breakthroughs going on. And I know it's tough, but we have to go through this birthing process to come out the other side. EFT, tap every day, get to your core root story, because all of this is happening on the world stage now because of our individual stories creating a collective game plan. And remember, if you've got something being pushed in you, if you've got a trigger, somebody's pushing your buttons, then without excusing any abusive behaviour ever, if you've got a button, there's something in you that is looking to heal. So for each one of us doing that shift, that's a very, very important focus. Shift the story and always see the gift that people who are coming into our circle are revealing what is hidden to us. They're making it conscious. They're showing us a way forward and a way to hold even more light. Lots of love to you. Bye for now.